Something else that you've worked on, Laurence, that I thought was really good, like truly brilliant, was the Antonio Conte documentary.
Thank you. It was a really fun documentary to make, actually.
Well, it's you and Glenn, which is a dream team if ever there was one.
Glenn Cowie, who is
disgustingly handsome, like painfully handsome.
Glenn's gifted in pretty much anything that Glenn puts his hand to.
It's annoying,
and he's so. You could just pour over Glenn all day, and a lot of women do,
yeah,
and a lot of men do.
I do.
And he's a great partner to make a documentary with because he's quite calm. He's very good at reading what you already want to have. His cut is actually, so sometimes he assembles some of the parts of the documentary, and then I'll go through it afterwards, or vice versa. We share the cut, and I always found that his edits were actually exactly what I was thinking. So the long conversations that we'd have about it when we were away on the trip. So this was the first documentary that we'd made two previous. We made one about Klopp, one about Pochettino, and one about Conte. And so when we came to Conte, we said the only thing we want is a little bit more budget to be able to actually go to Turin and take some cutaways. So, get the stadium, get the fans, get those sorts of things. And also just shots around the city to sort of understand where Conte came from. Because I never really had an idea of what Turin was like. Because to me, it's just Juventus. That's what Turin is. When you go there, Juventus almost seems like sort of an add-on to Turin. Like it's not like a football mad town. It's Turin, this beautiful cultural place, and all these lovely people. And then when they go to the stadium, they become these Juventus fans.
Yes.
And then they go and then they...
Rather than somewhere like Naples, where the city just oozes Napoli everywhere you go.
Yeah, so you can't miss Maradona everywhere you go in that city. You can't miss, red and black or blue and black in Milan. Like those fans are always there. Whereas in Turin, it seems a lot more of like a stylish thing. Like they're much more involved in the brand Juve, those sorts of things, which wasn't irrelevant to Conte because actually Conte is a really interesting mix of like a brand and a person and perception and like all these different things and how dedicated he is to his lifestyle. He's just a really interesting guy. And the best thing about doing these documentaries is when I first got into doing the football side, I was a little bit upset that I didn't get to do like the documentaries about people or exploring characters. And I find there's a lot of very surface documentaries where they're like, he then went to Charlton, he then went to West Ham, he then went here, he then went here. And they don't really map what goes on. They just sort of go, he scored 10 goals and he had a good time. And the Conte documentary actually gave us some real opportunity to dive into what Conte was like. Yeah. And I didn't really have that much idea before. By the way, Chelsea had done a great documentary before that as well, like a good 10, 15 minutes.
Yes, I remember seeing that.
Where they used all their footage from they actually had the rights to, and that was fantastic. But that was a great basis for then something we could be a bit more critical, analytical with. I
think that, I watched both. I thought both were very good, but your one was far more compelling because I think anything that is independent is better because there's no agenda. There's no agenda. It went on an agnostic football channel. Yeah, and therefore was allowed to really encapsulate the person that he is.
He's a really interesting character as well, isn't he? Like Do
you think he's brilliant? Like for me, I genuinely believe that he is dazzlingly brilliant.
He's dazzlingly brilliant at what he does.
Yes,
and I don't think anyone else tries to be Antonio Conte because no one else. It's really weird that we didn't get the chance to include absolutely everything in the documentary because you can't include everything in the cut. Sometimes their answers can't be fitted in to explain. It shows the ineptitude of the documentary maker. But the interesting side was he's a bit of a figure of fun in Italy.
Is that so?
Yeah, so I'm told, but only in certain circles. So in certain circles, incredibly well respected and thought after. Some circles they say he looks like he's got a cat on his head and he takes life way too seriously and oh man, why are you so compelled by football, why do you even care about this? But then other people really care about that. Right. And certain players are there are certain players who wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for Antonio Conte, or wouldn't have the career level they have. Yes. Like Giaccherini, who played for Italy, he's a Conte player.
Yeah, he was playing for Sunderland, wasn't he? And got called up. Yeah, it's incredible. He went to a tournament.
But it's mentality for Conte. Yes. And then it was interesting because Mina Rizuki, who a lot of people dislike or don't like or whatever, because A, she's a woman in the game, B, she's quite an outspoken woman in the game, and C, she sometimes says things which seem controversial at the time. She wasn't, talk about her and Mo Salah in a second, but she said he sort of went against what Juve wanted, which was this stile Juve or the Juventus style. And he wasn't as graceful as they wanted him to be.
Okay.
And when he first came to England, he was very charming, very graceful. And I think over time we've sort of seen the character of Conte evolve. It's a bit like dating him. So the early dates, fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you sort of reach that zenith date with the person you're dating.
And then he gets sent off on the touchline.
Yeah. And you can ride that out in a relationship if the previous dates have been good enough, which with Chelsea it has, because he got to that zenith date. He got to the first anniversary, which is winning the title. And you can sort of ride that out, but their character has to improve from there rather than deteriorate. And she sort of flagged something which I thought was quite interesting, was he never stays very long at a club, and he's always looking to move a little bit. He does miss Italy, you know, he's compelled by football, he's compelled by being Italian, all these sorts of things. And
so if you were to collate the information that you received, you know, you interviewed a lot of very informed journalists during that thing.
James Horncastle, Paolo Bandini, Mina Rizuki, like three of the best people to speak to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And overall, would they be suggesting that potentially this ends soon?
There was a suggestion when we went there by a few different sources that he wasn't looking for an out, but that Conte is not perpetually uncomfortable, but it's difficult to nail him down. Right. And so they knew, and to some extent Chelsea bought into this, that when they got him, he wasn't going to be there for 5-6 years. And I think as long as you accept that, you can be swept along with the magic of Conte.
So he's an impact manager. He comes in, you win the league, you might have another good campaign, but then potentially it ends.
But it also has a long-term effect on the club where it gives the next manager a fantastic base to build from, because he has a set of players who have been broken down, then built back up for the majority. Some of them have just been reinforced because he sees a character there. And they've got a great level of discipline.
Right.
So, Allegri at Juventus benefited from that,
of course,
built on that, and now has completely his own blueprint. But there's still sort of elements in that. 3 at the back was something that Conte was experimenting with when he went there from a 4-2-4. And there's all these... He dragged Juventus out of that. Yeah. And he dragged Chelsea out of a bit of a shitstorm as well.
Massively.
So it's similar, where what he did was he wrote the ship. And maybe that's an undervalued part of him.
Taking a Chelsea team that finished 10th and turning them into champions is huge. It's an incredible achievement. I think everything was going wrong for the club at the time when he came in. The disparity between the players and the fans was almost unlike any other time.
Yeah.
It was often a poisonous atmosphere at Stamford Bridge. It wasn't a happy place. Suddenly, this diminutive little Italian arrives. We play West Ham on the opening day of the season. We nick a last-minute winner, and we never look back.
It changes.
And I just really hope... I know that the characteristics are that he moves on. Yeah. You know, in the way that Mourinho's characteristics are the same. But I really hope that he doesn't. I think that Chelsea need to do everything they can to keep hold of him.